Welcome back. So let's start from reproduction and management of snails. Okay, now as you all know, snails are hermaphrodites, right? Meaning one individual snail has both the male and female reproductive organs. Okay, but they still need each other for fertilization to take place. I'll tell you why. One snail has both the penis and the vagina, but that one snail cannot fertilize itself and start laying eggs. I said that from the beginning. They need each other to fertilize eggs and for reproduction to take place. Okay, so I'm going to show you a picture of what their fertilization process looks like. Now, this is what happens. Two snails will have to exchange gametes for reproduction to take place. That is, e.g., this. Let me show you. Let me just circle it. This. Look at what's happening here. This. The snail A. Let's look at another picture again. Snail A. Look at this. Snail A will insert his penis on the vagina of snail B, and snail B will insert a penis on the vagina of snail A. That's how it's done. Okay, that's how the exchange. That's how the exchange process takes place. So you do not have a male or female snail, like we said from the beginning. This is how they exchange gametes and the and fertilization takes place. Now, when fertilization takes place, or when fertilization has taken place, and they lay the eggs, you are expected to excavate the soil, which is the tilling of the soil that I talked about earlier when we were talking about concrete pens. Talked about tilling of the soil regularly, okay, at least once in a week. Look at what's going on here. If you look at this picture, you will see some eggs, but these eggs that you're seeing on top, they are just like a pointer to the ones that are underneath. Enough, you still have enough underneath. Okay, sometimes you will just see one on top of the soil, so you just excavate underneath and pick the remainders. All right, now you excavate the soil at least once a week to find the eggs and incubate them in a separate pen or on disposable plates. I'll show you shortly. Now, for the disposable plates, you will bore holes at the bottom of the plate. This is for those who don't have now this is what I'm talking about. You can actually incubate your eggs in disposable plates like this. Just put your sterilized soil in the disposable plate, but bore some holes underneath, and then you put your eggs here. You can successfully incubate your eggs in this pattern if you don't have enough pen to incubate and also breed your snails. So you can use this pattern as well. All right, now like I said, you will bore holes on the plates, on this disposable plates, and you're expected to wait for a period of 21 days for the eggs to hatch. Now after these 21 days, the eggs that did not hatch, you incubate them again, okay, for another 15 to 20 days. Okay, so even the what's it called, even the sorting that you do once in a week, sometimes you might still be seeing eggs while you're feeding them or while you're watering them. So you still pick them. You must not wait till the day of the week that you do your finding or the sorting of egg that you will pick them. The moment you see any egg, you pick immediately. Okay, you should take them and incubate them immediately, because if the eggs are exposed to air for a prolonged period or for a prolonged time, they will go bad. They can crack and then they will never hatch again. All right, now The ideal color of snails is this creamy yellow. This is the ideal color. But if you allow them to stay to be exposed to air for too long, now for those who have large farms, if it is your day of searching for eggs, like you pick one day, like for me, I do that on Saturdays. I pick my eggs on Saturdays. Now, if you're picking your eggs in a particular day, and if your farm is big, make sure this plate that you're putting your eggs has a cover, so that you cover them so they don't go bad before you pick everything, or when you pick from 5 6 snail pen, you go and incubate those ones before you come back and continue. Because if you just keep them continuously like this, and excuse me, and air continues to touch them, they will go bad. Like I said, the soil on the incubator pen is the same as the soil in the breeder pen. The only difference is that the soil on the incubator pen is a little bit warmer, and that's because you're not watering the soil on a daily basis. Okay, you can water it once in a week. Just sprinkle water on it once in a week. Sprinkle water for those that are incubating their eggs in their pen, in a pen. Sprinkle water on the mulching materials once in a week. Now, when you pick the eggs, that is for the rainy season. If it is dry season, it depends on the humidity of the soil. You will know how best to water the soil of your incubator pen, but it cannot be every day, right? Now, when you pick your eggs, after counting the when you pick the eggs, all right, after counting your eggs, you must count them. Let's take for instance, you pick 20 eggs. Okay, now after counting these eggs, you open the eggs in your incubator pen, and then you put in these eggs and cover them shallowly, not too deep, shallowly. Now the incubator pen should be watered once a week, like I said, and you also put mulching materials. All right, they should have they should be at the floor of the earth. That will be that, like the soil on your incubator pen, the soil should be the same depth as the one in your breeder pen. Okay, not too deep, not too shallow. Now, so that they can find it easy for the hatchlings to burrow out of the soil when they hatch. Okay, now the day you're going to pick your snails, let's assume, like for me on Saturday, that I go to pick my snails. Some of the snails, some of the eggs have been laid maybe the previous day or the day before the previous day, before I went on that particular day to go and pick them. That means they have already been laid for more than 2 days, which means during the incubation process, some will hatch before others will. All right. So, like I said, before we got to this point, I told you that when the 21 days is complete, you open that place, bring out the ones that have hatched, then the ones that did not hatch, you bury them back again. Now, there are some few things I would like you to put in place. All right. Now, the soil where you're incubating your eggs, the incubated eggs should not be more than 2 to 3 inches deep. Okay, so that it will be easy for them to burrow out. Now, next we're going to talk about what you need to do when incubating your eggs. Now, you get a piece of paper. Okay, write the number of eggs that you're incubating. Now, you've opened a particular spot. Let's take for instance this place. You've opened this place. All right, you've buried some eggs there. You get a piece of paper, write the number of eggs that are buried there. Okay, on that spot that you incubated there, write the date that you're incubating them, and also write the date that they are expected to hatch. All right, so let's assume you're burying them on the 30th of January. That means the expected date of hatching is 21st of February. Okay, so you write all these dates down. Look at the screen very well. um, Date of incubation, number of eggs incubated, expected date of first hatching, which is 21 days. All right. Now, from the date they were incubated, reason is that you don't, so that you don't mistakenly go and open that same spot again, all in a bid to incubate more eggs. Look at this place that I circled. This place that I circled. You've already written something there. You can pierce this piece of paper with a stick or something and then just put it somewhere around the place so that you will know that, okay, some eggs are already incubated here, so that you don't open it, because eggs that you have incubated should not be opened again until they hatch or until the 21 days is complete. Okay, so you cannot be making the mistake of, now if you don't write this piece of this information, place it on the piece of on the particular spot that they are incubated, you will always make the mistake of going back to that same spot to open up again because you want to incubate more eggs. So these are one of the reasons why you need to write down, to have good bookkeeping, and also to know the number of eggs that are laid, the number of eggs that hatch, and all of that. These are some of the reasons. Now, so you move to another spot. The next time you're incubating again, you can move to the next spot and lay and incubate your eggs there. So you pick another spot. Just remember the information that you will put in there. Look at the screen very well. Remember the information that you put on the paper. The date of incubation, number of eggs incubated, expected date of first hatching. Now, at the top of the soil, you just pin it there. They will not all hatch the same time. Okay. The reason is that that's actually the reason why you incubate them for another 15 to 20 days again. Now, as they hatch, they will burrow out of the soil. So you just pick the hatchlings and take them to a separate pen or to your greenhouse for those that have a greenhouse. Now, any egg that does not hatch after the second or this extra 15 to 20 days should be discarded, because such eggs will never hatch again. Now, after transferring the hatchlings to your separate pen, you start to feed them the same way you feed the adult snails, or you put them in the greenhouse where they will live like though they are in their natural habitat. Now, the reason why we don't keep the eggs in the pen where the adult snails are is because, like I said, we constantly water that pen, which means the water level will be too much for the eggs, because the incubator pen is not supposed to be watered on a daily basis, and also that soil will be too compact for them to burrow out. They are still very young, and for them to come out of that soil, it might be difficult. But this incubator pen is just watered once in a week, so it won't get compact, it won't be too cold, it won't be too warm. Okay, excuse me. All right, so those are some of the reasons why we separate them from the mother snails. All right, it would now next, the incubator pen just needs to retain enough humidity. Okay, which is why we're watering it once in a week for the eggs to hatch well. So we till the soil of the pen every 1 week, which is the pen where we have our breeder snails, so the snails themselves can also burrow under the soil and lay their eggs, because they actually lay under the soil. Because if they lay on top of the soil, the eggs will turn pure white or crack or go bad, so they won't hatch anymore. All right, so that's the much we can take for the production and management system. Now, next we're going to talk about stocking density. Let's talk a little about stocking density. Now, a pen of about 1 square meter, or a pen measuring 2.5 width and 5 feet length, should not contain more than 50 snails. Okay, it shouldn't contain more than 50 adult snails. Now, if you stock too much, there will be higher rate of mortality. cause of competition to feed, and then cannibalism as well, and cause they will be competing. Okay, now you can stock your snails at any day or any month of the year. There's nothing like January is the first time to start snail farming, February is no. Because you are in control of the feeding, the watering, and everything, you can start any month of the year. The reason why we start early, like January, February, March, April, is because most people want to start harvesting some of their snails and selling by the end of the year. But it's still the same thing, even if it enters the next year, it's still the same thing. Okay, so that's just that for it. Now, this is how to start your snail farm. Now, once you receive your snails, listen to this carefully, please. Once you receive your snails from wherever they are coming from, wherever you're buying them from, okay, once they get to you, first of all, you open the bag that they were conveyed in. Okay, like I said, some of them will lay eggs before they get to you, some of them lay their eggs on transit. Okay, so you open and spread them. Okay, pick up the eggs that were laid while they were on their way to you, and incubate them immediately. Okay, just spread them on the ground and pick up the eggs if there be any. If there's none, you're just good to go. Next, you sprinkle water on them. Now, the reason why you need to pick your eggs before you sprinkle water is so that the eggs don't go bad. Okay, so you must pick the eggs before you sprinkle water on them. If you look at the screen, you will see few eggs. These eggs cannot be picked again. Look at this place. These eggs cannot be used again. They will definitely go bad because water has been sprinkled on the snails. All right, so you sprinkle water on the snails which are on the floor, or better still, you can just get a basin or a bucket, put water in it, and then put your snails inside the bucket or the basin. Now, the water should be such that it will cover up everything. But for me, and then for my students, I also teach you how you can give them what I call calcium bath. Now, in this calcium bath, what I do is I put the water in a bucket or a basin. Now, something like this, put the water in a basin or a bucket, and then I add in, like for 100 snails, I add 1 tablespoon of calcium. Just stir it and then put in the snails inside, and I leave them for like 2 to 3 minutes. All right, then I take them out. So you can do that before you introduce them into your pen. All right, now this way is just to, like, the water that you're putting in there must completely cover the whole snails, and the moment you start seeing them crawling out, like what is going on in this screen right now, you know that they have had enough. Okay, so you take them out. Now, this is just a way to energize them after the long journey from wherever they are coming from to get to your pen, and also to keep them neat before they go into the pen. Right, for me, I clean my snails before I send them out for sale. Okay, for any other person that you're getting the snails from, if they didn't clean it, you can also clean them before you even give them this calcium bath, so they will be neat and then energized enough to go into their new home. All right, next we're going to be talking about if you don't have a greenhouse. Okay, how you go about. We talked a little about stocking density here. This stocking density is mostly for those who don't have a greenhouse. Now look at the breeder stock, 40 to 50 snails. Now all this density is for the same size of pen. For the concrete pen, 3 blocks for the length, 1.5 block for the width. Okay, that is what will contain 40 to 50 snails, at most 50 snails for the breeders, which is the mature ones. Okay, then for growers, they can contain up to 150 in that same space. And for hatchlings can contain up to 400. So if I just added only 300, but it can contain up to 400. All right, but as they grow, the more they grow, the more you reduce the number of snails that will be in a particular pen. All right. Excuse me. So this is what brings us to those that don't have a greenhouse system. You have what we call nursery pen, grower pen, and the breeder's pen. So let's first of all talk about the nursery pen. Now the nursery pen is where you have the baby snails. Okay. um these are snails that are about 2 to 3 months old. Okay, that's basically it for the nursery pen. It's not as if it must be a special pen. No, the pen where you have your hatchlings is automatically your nursery pen. Okay, which is the one I showed you just now, that will contain about um 300 to 400 snails, right? This 200 to 300, that's your nursery pen. So it is not a special kind of pen, it is just where you have your hatchlings. All right, and they can be there for at least 2 to 3 months before they move to the grower stage. Now the grower pen is where you move them to after staying in the nursery pen for about 3 months. So they will have to be in this grower pen for another 3 to 4 months. Now this time the number of snails have reduced. Okay, the number of snails have reduced to now at most 150. So like I said, as they grow, the more they grow, the more you reduce their number. The more you reduce their number. When they were hatchlings, you have about 300 inside. When they stay there for the next 2 to 3 months, you divide those 300 into two, move half into another pen, and keep the other half there. That's just what happens. It's not as if they are specific pen that you just move them to. And that is because it is good for a pen to contain snails of equal size, so that no one will be cheating any other. Imagine putting hatchlings and breeder snails in one pen. The breeders will finish all the food before the hatchlings will get there now, so it's good to put in snails of the same size in one pen. Now after this grower pen, after the snails have stayed in this particular place for about 3 to 4 months, you divide them again. Remember, in this grower pen it's about 100 or 150. Let's say 100. Now you have 100 here. Now by the time they stay for another 3 to 4 months, you now divide them again and keep only 50. Remember, the most that the breeder pen can carry is 50. Now this is where you bring them to when they reach the point of lay stage, right? To start laying eggs for you. These pens are all the same. That's what I'm trying to explain. They are all the same. The only difference is the stocking density. The stocking density reduces as they increase in size and age. For the nursery pen, they are so small, so you can stock up to 200 or 300 or 400 snails. Okay, now as they grow to maybe 3 to 4 or 5 months, you reduce the number probably to 100 snails. So it's not like you have to move all the snails to a different pen or whatever. You just reduce the number. All right, as they grow more again, you reduce again. Then as they continue to grow and you see the size increasing, you keep reducing the number until it's 50, about 50 snails. So the categories are based on the number of snails you have in a pen. These categories, this nursery, growers, and breeder pen, is just because of the number of snails that will be at a particular pen at a particular time. The same pen that you use for your nursery pen, so for your nursery, as you divide your snails because they've grown and you're moving them to different places, that same pen will contain some of the hatchlings that have grown to growers. Okay, then when they grow much more again, you divide again. So Just know that it is not a specific pen, it is just because of the number of snails that will be contained. That is why they are categorized in this manner. And these are for people who don't have a greenhouse. Okay, because if it is a greenhouse, the moment they hatch, the most you can keep them is about a month. Some people don't even keep them at all. The moment they hatch, next minute they throw them into the greenhouse, which is not still bad as well. All right, next we're going to talk about general management practices that you need to observe. Very important, please. This is very, 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 very important. All right. Number one, ensure that your farm has an overhead shade. We've talked about this before. This is just like a recap now. Ensure that your farm has an overhead shade, okay, to make it cool and avoid direct sunlight and direct rainfall. Next, ensure the right type of soil is used and also dry plantain or banana leaves for additional shade. Next, you must also ensure that your snailry is surrounded by a water trench to ward off predators and snail enemies. Next one, the cover lid of your pen should be covered with mosquito net and also the wire mesh, which is the chicken net, against flying insects. Okay. Another thing is that you would discourage visitors from coming into your snail pen frequently, because the more you open your snail pen, the more you touch them, the more you're disturbing them, it will stunt their growth. I've told you before, the only 2 times you are allowed to go to your snail pen is in the morning when you're taking off the remaining feeds that you gave them the previous night, and in the night when you're feeding them again. Those are the only 2 times. Don't go every now and then to be disturbing the snails. I remember someone someone once called me around after 11, and he was like, Madam Mary, the snails are not eating. Oh. I'm like, what are you doing in the snail pen by this time of the night? Leave them alone. Leave those people alone to rest. So please, don't be touching them anyhow. Don't be disturbing them anyhow. For my sisters, women among us who have had children, I remember when I first had my daughter, I gave birth to her 2005. She was my first child. I gave birth to her, and then I just heard ham, and then I didn't hear anything again. I was now asking the doctor, "What is happening? Is my child alive?" He said, "Yes, now the child is alive." I said, "Then why is she not crying?" Because I was told that children are supposed to be crying when they come out. He was like, "Okay, should I beat her for her to cry?" I said, "No, don't touch her." In fact, the moment I was cleaned up and I went to the bed to lie down, I opened her netted bed and I was just looking at her. My eyes could not get off her, and I'm like, so this human being came out of me. Now you can have that kind of feeling when you start a snail farm. You will want to be seeing it all the time. I understand the feeling, okay? I understand that, but please try and avoid it, okay? They are not children. Even children too need their space. So please try and avoid always frequenting your snail pen. All right, discourage people from frequenting it as well. That is why you need to keep it under lock and key, so that when you're not around, nobody will go into your snail pen without your permission. All right, next, you provide some sort of security for your snail farm, okay, against theft and some other unforeseen circumstances. Keep it under lock and key. Okay, some persons usually use poultry droppings on their farms. I don't use it, so please, I will discourage it. Don't use it. Okay. One thing you need to understand is snail farming business is relatively new in West Africa. So we're still doing some findings. Animal scientists are doing some findings, and the more they drop, the more we adopt some new things. But for now, please don't use poultry droppings at all for your snail feeds. You can only drop it as a fertilizer for the greenhouse system before you even start to fertilize the plants, the crops that you're going to plant there, not as feed for your snails. Okay, that's that. Then next, always remove leftover feeds from the snail pen. Okay, so once you give them the food, the next morning remove the remaining food. and wash your feeder and drinker tables, okay? Or sorry, drink feeder trays. Wash them just to keep everywhere neat. For that of formulated feeds, the trays that you're using to give them water, always wash it and keep it clean, right? And then when you're removing the leftover feeds, the snail physics that are there, if you can see them, also pick them off. You can just use the rubber spoon to pick them off. There won't be much, so you don't have much work to do, okay? Now next, always inspect every material that is brought into your snail farm, e.g. the dry plantain leaves. You must, first of all, you know that you need to sterilize them. Okay, boil a big pot of hot water and dip them inside the hot water before you remove them. And when you're allowing them to cool off, don't drop them on the ordinary ground. You can drop them uh on top of a table or on top of the pen. That is before you put your snails. So if your snails are already inside, please don't put your dry plantain leaves that are not yet dried from the hot water. Don't put them on top of the snail pen. But before the snails arrive, you can actually do that. Just allow it to cool off there before you introduce them into the pen. All right. Like I said, boil a very hot water, stock them inside, and allow it to cool off before you introduce it to the pen. All right. Now there might be some predators, some ants or some eggs that are on these leaves, which is why you need to go through this process. So you don't need to just wash it with ordinary water. Use boiling water. Just put the leaves inside the boiling water. Okay, make sure every part of the leaves enter inside the water, is submerged totally inside. Then you bring them out and immediately you just allow them to dry and then put them inside. And the moment you do that, any form of insect that was there will die. Any form of insect at all will die the moment you dip them inside the boiling water. All right. Okay, so that's that. Like I said, you don't drop it on the floor again after bringing them out of the hot water. Don't drop it on the ordinary floor. Put them on top of a table. Okay, and then next, treating of your woods. We've already talked about that. The wood for the wooden pens. In order to treat the woods against termites, you should treat the woods once, let's say a month before you introduce your snail inside, or at least 2 to 3 weeks before you put your snails inside. So when you're starting your hutch box system, first things first, as you buy your woods, is to disinfect them with the termite disinfectant before you continue with the other process of doing nets, doing this, doing that, sterilizing your soil, mulching materials, before you now order for your snails. Those of you that have tried to order for snails without arranging all of this, you know the results. I will refuse you hands down. At all, I will not do it, because is my name you will go and spoil. So I won't allow you, and I will discourage you greatly from doing that. Make sure everything is ready before you order for your snails. Ordering for snails is the least thing. Okay, get everything right. All their habitat requirements should be ready before the snails arrive your location. All right. Next, always till the soil, like we've already said, at least once in a week, to keep it free and loose. Okay. Now change your snail pen soil after like 18 months, which is 1 year and 6 months. Now do not disturb your snails every day. Now that's why some egg sorting or some egg sorting findings is done once in a week. Every other day, you just water and feed them, and take out the leftovers. Close the pen till the next day of feeding again. So don't be disturbing your snails all the time. Next, do not raise the dry plantain leaves on a daily basis to check for eggs. Okay, harvest your eggs once a week. Don't be raising the dry plantain leaves all the time. Give those snails space. Be go. Abeg, pastor say give them space. Don't be opening the dry plantain leaves all the time. You go in the morning, you open the leaf. You go in the evening, you open the leaf. No, sometimes you just go there, you drop the leaf. That is why I told you for, let me see if I can get what I'm looking for this example that I want to talk about, you will see that the snail pen is divided like this. Yes, divided into two. One part is open, one part is closed, and you will see all the snails under that closed part. So just drop whatever it is you want to drop in this open space, close the pen, and go. Please go back to your house and leave the snails to enjoy their meal when they are ready. All right, you must not come back. Some people will come back in the night, be flashing light on the snails to see if they are eating. They will eat. Okay, they will eat. So don't bother about that. Do not raise the dry plantain leaves all the time. Okay, now your pen must be kept clean, which is why when you're taking off the leftover feeds in the morning, if you see snail physics, you also remove that. Just general hygiene. Okay, general hygiene. Just keep your snail pen and its surroundings clean. Clear any bushes that might be too close to your snail pen to ward off reptiles, predators, reptiles like snakes and the likes. All right, now after you remove the leftovers, if it's dry season, then you water them that morning too. Like I have already told you, water them that morning if it's dry season. And in the evening, before you give them food, you still sprinkle water on them again. Whether dry season or rainy season, that evening watering is compulsory. Okay. After which you drop the food that you want to give to them and you go. All right. So that's that. Then we're almost done with all of this. Okay. Next, um you just leave the pen, okay, till the next morning again. So you're doing this same thing over and over again. So it's the same routine, just every day repeating the same thing over and over again, which is what makes snail farming relatively very simple and easy. Now next we're going to be talking about how to manage predators, parasites, and diseases. Okay, how you can manage predators, parasites, and diseases. Now diseases of snails, we don't really have much knowledge about diseases of snails, but what we know are parasites and predators that affect snails. So first we're going to be talking about predators. Now what is a predator? A predator is an organism that destroys another organism, and the animal that is being destroyed is called a prey. Now, the only way snails can protect themselves is to retrieve into their shells, which is not an effective means of protection because anything can still happen to them. Okay, so which is why you need to protect them to the best of your ability, putting in the mosquito net, the uh, chicken net, putting it under lock and key, and for bigger farms employing extra security, which is why their security and their protection is your sole responsibility. Okay, now we have said before that the greatest predator to snail is man, and that is because one man can pack all your snails in just 1 hour. Okay, so when your farm manager or your farm attendant is stealing from you and then selling behind your back, they become a snail predator to you. All right, so you have to be very careful as well who you employ to manage your farm if you're not doing it by yourself. So you need to keep adequate recording of every process, okay, from the number of eggs that are laid, number of hatchlings, and so on and so forth. Okay, so because if not, you'll be losing a whole lot because snail farm managers will just be telling you one story after the other. Madam, or they will say, Oga, yesterday 40 snails died, 20 snails died, 50 snails died, and just like that. Meanwhile, majority of them are just picking them to go and sell. So you need to be careful, you need to be vigilant, and you need to be committed to your snail farm. We talked about being committed from the beginning, right? All right. If they tell you that a snail died, let them present the snail to you. The snail and the shell. You should see it and you should be the one to dispose of it by yourself. ensure that your farm attendant shows you the dead snail. Ensure, okay, and you dispose it yourself, especially if you have a big farm, because that's an avenue for them to take advantage and be telling you that snails are dying. Now, some major predators of snails are soldier ants. You know that red ant, soldier ants, rats, birds, snakes, lizards, termites, centipedes, cockroaches, millipedes, frogs, mice, and beetles. All right, those are some of the uh, predators that we have that affect snails. All right, for all of these that I've called the creeping ones, for apart from the greenhouse system, for the concrete pen system, we've already prevented how they can come out from the soil. We've already prevented how they can come from outside of the pen. We've already prevented how they can come, the flying ones can come from the top with the nets and all of that. So you have pretty much successfully secured your snail farm. Now for the greenhouse system, which is why I taught you how to use the palm oil to extract or to draw out any ants that might be hiding that you cannot see, okay, to always secure your farm. You can do that once in every month. All right, now let's talk a little about parasites. Now, without a doubt, the fly, there's this fly, in fact, I don't know how to pronounce this name. There's this fly. Look at the screen very well. That fly is a dangerous parasite to snails. If you look at the opening of the shell that is on the screen, you will see some things. Those of you who have experienced dead snails in your farm, you will see some things like this on the opening of your snail. Some of them that died is the cause of this ant. Look at where it starts from, and then this is the adult. This fly lay up to 20 to 40 eggs. Okay, they lay up to 20 to 40 eggs, and they lay it on top of this snail like this. They are the worst when it comes to fly infestation, which is why your net mesh must be closed at all times. The only time you're opening them is when you're giving them feed and when you're clearing the snail pen. Okay, now the best protection is the mosquito net. Okay, which is why, like I said, it should not be open all the time. Okay, now let's talk about the diseases. Like I said, diseases or little or nothing is quite known about diseases of snails, diseases that attack snails, and this is because snail farming is still relatively new in West Africa. All right, so maybe as time goes on, scientists and research labs are likely to come up with things, some diseases that actually affect them, and will know how to handle such when we know more about the diseases. But for now, basic hygiene just prevents the spread of some of these diseases and some of these parasites. All right. So your snail pens should be cleaned out regularly to remove excreta and the uneaten food. Excreta, that's the physics of the snails. Remove them, and then the uneaten food, which is the leftover food, as well as any other decaying matter inside your snail pen, should be removed. Okay, so just maintain general hygiene in your snail pen. Okay, it is also advisable to sterilize or treat, or you change your soil, the soil on your pen, completely after every 18 months. I've already said this before, so I'm just going to give you the process to which you do that. Now, to sterilize the soil, the snails should first of all be removed from the pens, okay, along with all the mulching materials. Now, this should be done. Once this is done, the soil should be removed and treated using fire. All right, this is the best method. This is the best method. You can use a pan, you can use wheelbarrow or pot, any other thing. Okay, this is the best method. Put up fire and then put your soil, and while it's heating up, keep turning it until everywhere is heated up, the whole of the soil is heated up. excuse me, which is the reason why you also leave this one to cool off before you put it back in the pen. Or even if you put it back in the pen, you must water it and allow it to cool off before you introduce your snails back into the pen again. All right, now after this is done, it should be allowed to cool off, like I said, before reintroducing the snails back into the pen. Sorry, before reintroducing it back into the pen. Then the snails should also be washed, or you can also give them the calcium bath that we talked about earlier before putting them back into the pen. Now the treatment of the mulching materials also should be done. Now this is the best way to treat your mulching materials. Just get a big pot, boil water, dip your dry plantain leaves or dry banana leaves inside, and make sure you submerge them completely before bringing them out, and then allow it to cool off before you introduce it back into your pen. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this our video series. Congratulations and thank you so much for staying till the end. Lastly, this is just going to be a gift, my parting gift. Now let me explain this feeding timetable for you shortly. If you look at it very well, we have Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, which is 5 days here, and we have 7 days in a week. This is what I use. Okay, this is what I use. I don't feed them every day. I don't feed them on Tuesdays. I don't feed them on Thursdays. You can decide to feed them every day. Your snails will grow bigger than mine. All right. Now, these are just suggestions. Now, if you look at this Monday, you see watermelon, pawpaw, cucumber, fresh tomatoes. That does not mean that you will give them watermelon, pawpaw, cucumber, and fresh tomatoes on Monday. No, just pick one of these and give them. Then for the time and feeding time, sorry, anywhere you see AM, it is actually PM. It's a typographical error. Okay, so it's PM. You give them from 6 to 7 p.m. That's usually the time I feed my snails. Okay, now for the next day, you're seeing rich formulated feeds. Okay, like I told you before, I feed my snails rich formulated feeds twice in a week. And if you look at this timetable, you will see that. Now on Friday, you see bitter leaf, ugu leaf, lettuce, water leaf, cocoyam leaf, pawpaw leaf, moringa leaf, meaning you can just pick any of these leaf and feed them for that Friday or any other day you're going for it. Okay, then on Saturday, another rich calcium formulated feed again. Okay, then Sundays, watermelons or pawpaw or cucumber or fresh tomatoes. Just mix it up. Okay, mix it up. Now there's someone I gave this timetable to, and he was saying something like, "Ma, I will give them watermelon this Monday. Next Monday, I will give them pawpaw. The other Monday, I will give them cucumber. The next Monday, I will give them fresh tomato." 1 month is already complete. Okay, so you can do that. You can do another thing, whatever works for you. But these are the things I feed my snails with. Please endeavor not to scout too much for other sources of feeds. All the feeds that you will need are on this timetable. So work with such these timetables and then enjoy your snail farm. Congratulations, and I wish you success in your snail farm. Please don't call me to order for snail if your snail pen is not yet ready. I will not answer you. Your snail pen should be ready. Your soil should be properly treated. Your mulching material should be properly treated before you call me to order for snail. Please, it's for your own good. You know that. All right. So this is me saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you all, and I wish you success in your snail farm business. We'll talk soon. Much love. Bye bye.